Hi, everyone, and welcome to your daily tarot reading. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you're doing well. And for today's reading, we'll see what the energies and the messages are for the day. Okay, Sagittarius, you did it. I need you to hear those three words before anything else in this reading reaches you, before any other insight or energy or message comes through those three words. First, landing directly, without preamble or qualification. You did it. And I know that might feel strange to receive, might feel slightly too large or slightly too presumptuous coming before I have said anything else, before you even fully know what this reading is going to contain. But I need you to understand that those words are not a warm-up. They are not an introduction. They are the entire point. Everything else in the next several minutes is simply the explanation of what they mean and why they are true and why you specifically deserve to hear them spoken without hesitation and without the usual careful spiritual hedging that sometimes softens the most important truths into something too gentle to actually land. You did it. Now let me tell you what that means. Stay with me. Because what is in your energy today is something I was not prepared for when I sat down to do this reading. And I want to be honest about that because I think honesty about my own experience of your energy is part of what will help you trust what I am about to share. There are readings where the energy is present and clear and worth conveying. And then there are readings where something comes through that goes past clear into something I can only describe as overwhelming in the most luminous sense of that word, where the field around a person is so charged, so full, so dense with the accumulated weight of everything they have carried and everything they have survived and everything they have quietly and without sufficient acknowledgement accomplished, that sitting inside it for any length of time produces something close to awe. That is your energy today. And I want every word of this reading to honor it accordingly. Let's open this fully because there is so much here. The first thing I want to establish, because it is the foundation upon which everything else in this reading rests, is what it actually means to have done something in the spiritual sense. Because in the ordinary understanding of doing something, the evidence is external. There is a result you can point to, a tangible output, a visible change in the landscape of your life that other people can observe and confirm and celebrate with you. And those external results matter, and they are real, and some of them are indeed part of your story right now. But the doing that I am speaking about today is not primarily the external kind. What you have done, the achievement that is sitting in your energy with such extraordinary weight and such unmistakable completeness, is internal. It is the kind of doing that happens in the invisible, in the private interior of a person's experience, in the long and unglamorous and frequently unwitnessed work of genuine transformation. You transformed. That is what I am feeling. Not the performative transformation of someone who adopted new habits or changed their surface behavior in response to external pressure. The real kind, the kind that goes all the way down into the operating system of how you understand yourself and what you believe you deserve and how you relate to your own worth and your own story and your own place in the world. Something fundamental shifted in you. And the shifting happened not in a single dramatic moment, though there may have been moments of acceleration, but through the steady, committed, day after day work of choosing differently than you had chosen before, of responding to yourself differently, of refusing with increasing consistency and increasing conviction to keep participating in the patterns and the stories and the relationships that were organized around a version of you that was smaller than the truth. That refusal, that specific, repeated, quietly courageous refusal, that is what you did That is the doing I am honoring today. Inhale, genuinely inhale, because I want you in your body for what comes next. I feel something in your energy that I want to describe as carefully as I can, because it is delicate in its beauty, and I do not want to flatten it with imprecise language. There is a quality of completion around you that is different from the completion of simply finishing something. It is the completion of becoming something, of arriving after a journey that was longer and harder and more demanding than it perhaps needed to be, at a version of yourself that you can stand inside without apology and without the constant, exhausting background negotiation of trying to be acceptable to a world that you were simultaneously trying to convince yourself was not failing to meet you. That negotiation has ended. Not because the world has suddenly become perfect or because all the difficult things have resolved themselves into comfortable conclusions, but because the internal negotiation, the one that was the source of all the external ones, has reached a resolution that has the quality of permanence rather than the quality of a temporary ceasefire. You have made peace with yourself. I want to say that plainly because I think it is the most significant thing I can say, and also the thing most likely to be underestimated in its importance. Making peace with yourself, genuine, deep, not performing it for anyone, peace, with the full complexity of who you are and what you have been through and what you have done and what has been done to you, is one of the most demanding achievements available to a human being. Most people spend entire lifetimes approaching it and retreating from it and approaching it again without ever fully arriving. You have arrived, and the arrival is written in your energy with a legibility and a solidity that I find genuinely moving to witness. Hold on, because I feel something specific about what this arrival is now making possible, and I want to go there carefully. When a person reaches this kind of internal completion, when the foundational work of genuine self-reconciliation is done, something happens in the relationship between them and their outer life that is almost alchemical in its quality. The things that were previously resistant to their efforts begin to yield. The doors that seemed structurally closed begin to open. The people and opportunities and circumstances that belong to the fuller, truer, more honestly inhabited version of their life begin to arrive, not as rewards dispensed by a universe that was withholding until certain conditions were met, but as natural consequences of a person finally occupying their own life completely. When you fill the space of your own existence fully, when you stop leaving parts of yourself unoccupied out of fear or habit or the lingering influence of old stories about what you were allowed to take up the world, responds to that fullness with its own kind of fullness. It has no other way to respond. That response is what is currently organizing itself around your life. And it is coming from multiple directions simultaneously in a way that is going to feel, when it becomes fully visible, like an avalanche of good things arriving all at once. It will not actually be all at once. It is already in various stages of approach. And some of it is closer than you realize. But the experience of it will have that quality because you are at a point in your trajectory where so much that has been building toward you for so long is finally able to complete its arrival without being deflected by the internal barriers that previously stood in its way. Those barriers are gone. You removed them. That is part of what you did. Let me speak now about the specific textures of what is arriving, because I think you deserve specificity rather than beautiful generality. The first texture is recognition. External recognition from people, from circumstances, from the practical landscape of your daily life, of the value and the quality and the genuine significance of what you bring. This is the universe beginning to reflect back to you in visible and tangible form what has always been true about you, but that previous circumstances were not adequately equipped to mirror. You are about to be seen. Not for the first time. There have been people who saw you. There have been moments of genuine recognition throughout your journey, but more widely and more consistently and more completely than what you have previously experienced. The version of your life that is assembling itself around you now has more room in it for you to be fully known. And being fully known, having the real you, the complete you, the unedited and unperforming you encountered and recognized and valued, is something that is going to become a more ordinary feature of your daily experience than it has ever been before. There is something here about a specific person or a specific relationship that I keep feeling pulled toward, and I want to address it because I think it is part of what makes this moment so charged for you. There is someone in your life or arriving in your life. The energy is close enough that I cannot determine with certainty whether this is an existing connection or deepening or a new one entering. Who is going to encounter you in this new version of yourself, and whose response to what they find is going to be one of the most validating experiences of your recent life. Not validating in the sense of requiring their approval to feel good about who you have become. You have moved past that particular dependency, and its absence is part of what makes you so energetically different than you were. Validating in the sense of being genuinely, warmly, specifically met, of having someone look at who you are, the full, completed, arrived version, and respond with something that can only be described as recognition, as the specific joy of encountering someone whose wholeness calls out to something in your own. That encounter is coming. And it is going to feel different from previous encounters with people who were significant to you, because you are different. Not better in a comparative sense, not improved from a defective previous version, more fully yourself. And meeting someone when you are more fully yourself produces a quality of connection that is categorically different from meeting them from a place of incompleteness or self-doubt or the quiet, pervasive anxiety of someone who is perpetually auditioning rather than simply being. You are simply being now. And what that draws toward you is people who can meet the simplicity of genuine presence rather than only the complexity of managed performance. I want to speak to something now that I feel is sitting just below the surface of your conscious awareness, and that deserves to be brought into the light directly. There is a part of you that is still slightly disoriented by who you have become, still adjusting to the new internal landscape, still occasionally reaching for the old familiar frameworks, the self-doubt, the smallness, the apologetic relationship to your own wanting and finding, with the surprise that has not yet fully become ordinary, that they are not as available as they used to be. That the reach toward the old diminishment comes up empty in a way that is strange and slightly unsettling, even as it is enormously, profoundly right. That disorientation is completely normal. It is the natural consequence of genuine change. The old self leaves a shape behind a kind of negative space where its familiar weight used to be, and occupying the new self fully takes time and practice and the gradual accumulation of evidence that the new version is not going to be taken away. You are in that accumulation phase. And every day that passes in which you continue to operate from the new, truer, more self-honoring place rather than retreating to the old one is a day that builds the foundation more solidly beneath you. You are doing that building right now. Every moment of this reading in which you have allowed what I am saying to land, in which you have felt its truth in your body rather than immediately deflecting it with skepticism, is part of that building. Let me ask you something, and I genuinely want you to sit with it rather than answer it immediately. What does it feel like in your body right now? Not in your mind, not in the story your thoughts are constructing around this reading, but in your actual physical body, to hear that you did it. To hear that the work is real, and the arrival is real, and the version of yourself that you have been working toward is not a distant future aspiration, but the person sitting here right now receiving these words. What does that feel like? Because I think what you feel in this moment is information, real, important, spiritually significant information about where you actually are in your own journey, regardless of what the external evidence has or has not yet confirmed. Something I feel with particular intensity around your energy right now is what I can only describe as momentum. A forward motion that has its own internal engine that is not dependent on any single external circumstance sustaining it, that is not going to stall if one thing does not go as hoped, or one timeline shifts, or one expectation needs to be revised. This is momentum that comes from the inside, from the self that has been rebuilt on truer foundations, from the clarity and the self-knowledge and the genuine inhabiting of your own worth that makes a person's forward motion self-sustaining in a way that externally dependent momentum never is. You are not moving forward because circumstances are cooperating. You are moving forward because you have become someone who moves forward regardless of what circumstances are doing. And that quality, that internally generated, self-sustaining, no longer waiting for permission momentum is one of the most powerful states a human being can occupy. You are occupying it right now, fully, perhaps more fully than you realize. The intensity of what I felt when I first tuned into your energy, the thing that produced the kind of emotional response that the title of this reading names, was this: the specific, rare, genuinely extraordinary experience of reading someone who has done the real work, who did not take the shortcut, who did not settle for the surface version of change, or the performed version of healing, or the comfortable, socially acceptable version of having worked on themselves while leaving the deepest and most demanding layers untouched. You went all the way. You went into the parts that were uncomfortable and the parts that required you to look at things you would have preferred not to look at, and the parts where continuing required more of you than you felt you had, and you did not stop, and you did not stop, and you did not stop. And now you are here in this energy, in this reading, in this specific moment of your life where the internal work has reached a completeness that the external world is now beginning to respond to with everything it has. And the everything it has is considerable. And it is moving toward you with a purposefulness and a specificity that makes very clear that what is coming was not available to the previous version of you, not because you were undeserving, but because the match between who you were and what this requires had not yet been established. It is established now. The match is complete, and the arrival is inevitable. I want to close with something that I have been feeling throughout this entire reading and that I have been saving because it is the thing I most want to leave you with, the most important thing. The thing that I hope you are still carrying days from now, long after the specific details of this reading have blurred into a general warmth. You did not do this for anyone else. That is what makes it real. You did not transform yourself to become more attractive or more acceptable or more deserving in someone else's eyes. You did it because somewhere underneath all of the noise and all of the old stories and all of the ways the world had taught you to be smaller than you were, somewhere underneath all of that, you always knew who you actually were. And you refused, through everything to permanently abandon that knowing, you came back to it. Again and again, through every season that tried to convince you to give it up, you came back to it. That faithfulness to your own deepest truth, that is the most extraordinary thing a person can do. And it is what you did. You did it. You genuinely, completely, irreversibly did it. And the life that is assembling itself around that achievement is going to spend a very long time showing you, in every possible language available to it, that it was worth every single moment of the work it required. Every single moment. Welcome to the other side. You earned every inch of it.